Join Amber, Diehm, Heuer, and me as we talk shielding techniques to guard yourself against someone else's junk and instead align with your highest good. Welcome to Health, Harmony, and Happiness with Kathy. I'm your host, Kathy Stricker. I'm a state patrol wife, mama to 3 lively kiddos, a yoga teacher, certified NLP coach, and an energetic rhythms expert. As an energetic rhythms coach, I help action-taking women use their body's rhythms and the moon's cycle to optimize productivity and avoid burnout without letting their desire to remain in control alter their focus. And this podcast is all about doing just that and perhaps a bit more so that you can create your own path to health, harmony, and happiness. So come along with me and may this episode serve as a nudge to discover tools that could help you on your path towards more intentional living. Enjoy the show. Hey friends, welcome back to the show. This is episode 60 of the Health, Harmony, and Happiness with Kathy podcast. I am super grateful that you are here. I'm so glad, first of all, that you are out there listening to this show, supporting me, supporting my business, and I want to be able to serve you as best as I possibly can. With that being said, if you have ideas for podcast episode topics or show ideas, please send me an email. Shoot me a message. You know how to get a hold of me. All my contact information is somewhere around here, but if not, it's Kathy with a C at cairnyogawellness.com. But I'm sure it is somewhere in the links. If not, you can get to it from my website. Nonetheless, I want these episodes to be about supporting you in your spiritual journey, in your self-discovery journey. So I want feedback from all of you, and I would love it if you shared some of your ideas with me and shared some of those questions that you have, some of those things that you want to know more about that I might know more about. And if not, I can always learn about them and share them with you. But as you're on your spiritual journey, as you're on your self-understanding journey, what is it you want to know about? What is it you want to hear about? I want this podcast to serve you. So that being said, as I said, feel free to email me anytime and let me know your thoughts. On to this week's topic. Okay, friends, this episode was a Facebook Live that I did a couple years ago, believe it or not. It was actually during COVID times. And I interviewed a woman who was my Reiki teacher. And you're going to hear from her today because I want you all to hear this. And I am so glad that I went back and revisited this and wanted to bring this out as a podcast episode because I was supposed to interview Amber for an episode. And then we both got crazy busy with life because of, well, COVID. And so I decided instead and talked to her about this of just using this as a podcast episode at some point. And now is that time. The original thought behind this topic was that I wanted her to share some shielding techniques, just so that when you come into a space, whether that's a room or encounter with someone where you can feel or sense an energy that maybe isn't going to be as resourceful for you, that she could share some ideas or ways that you can shield yourself or protect yourself from that energy. She puts a different spin on it though, and I think it's beautiful. And I am switching my frame of thinking or my way of talking about this topic now, instead of shielding, to use it as aligning with your highest good. And I quickly started doing that after I interviewed her back a couple years ago, because I think that's so crucial to not be living in this fear-based place, but living out of a place of alignment with your highest good. And for you, maybe that is, and Amber references this in the episode, maybe that's a place of living in alignment with your highest health, harmony, and happiness, and what that might look like. So we talk about that, and you can learn some things that you can do to avoid taking on someone else's energy, but instead to remain aligned. So it's a great episode. Keep in mind, like I said, it was recorded way back like 2 years ago or over 2 years ago when COVID was going on. So some things you'll hear reference to that. Some things might sound a little bit different in that regard. Otherwise, it's a long episode. Stick with it. It might be good to break up into a couple listening sessions, but it's got a lot of really good content, and it's always just beautiful and wonderful to learn from Amber because she has a lovely spirit to share with the world and lovely insights on things. So here you go. Enjoy the show. Welcome, Amber. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be here and enlighten us on all of the wisdom that you have.
I'm excited.
Good. I'll kind of introduce you. Amber Diehm Heuer, right? That's how you say your last name.
Yep.
She was my Reiki teacher, and she's a spiritual leader and healer, and actually does a lot of work with leading and empowering women to take responsibility for their spiritual gifts and to use them to help others. Does that sound adequate?
That sounds beautiful. Yes, I don't think I could have worded it that well. So yeah.
Okay, So Amber is joining us today to talk about shielding. And shielding is something that sometimes it's easy to forget to do if you're not in the practice of doing it. But it can make a big difference when you do use some techniques so that you're not taking on the energy of others or giving away energy that you don't want to be giving away, right? I'm going to share an example. So yesterday I'm having a good day and I come home from work and my husband is not having a very good day. And I don't want to throw him under the bus or anything, but he didn't get a lot of sleep the night before and it was his own choosing. He's not having a good day. And it really, really sucked everything out of me. And we were kind of crossing paths. He was leaving to go to work at the time I was coming home. And I did not get good vibes or communication or anything from him. And quite honestly, I wasn't prepared for that. And I wasn't prepared for it whatsoever. And I walked into it and I didn't do anything to shield myself or release whatever I had been doing. Lots of times I'll sit in my car and just say, release, release, release before I walk into the house. But it impacted me the rest of the evening, really. And he didn't end up working the whole night. He came home early. And when he did, life was better. It was good. Can you speak to that at all? What do you do in an instance like that? Well, let's get to that later. Let's start with, first of all, what is shielding?
Yeah. So Kathy, we will come back to that because I actually wrote it down. And so that's such a good real world example of where this comes into play. And I think, any of us who have partners, any of us who have children, any of us who work, in any capacity, we all have those instances probably multiple times a day where something like that happens and we're interacting even with people we love. It's not just about the people who irk us or who rub us the wrong way. It's the people we love, and that's who we're encountering more during our normal day. And that's sometimes where we need the most shielding. So we will definitely talk about that. I love that you gave that example. So, Kathy, when you approached me with this idea of talking about shielding, the word shielding for me is one of those words that, words have power, words have energy, and some words have lighter energy for us, and some words have heavier energy for us. And shielding for me has a really heavy energy with it because it feels like we have to resist against something. It feels that we have to block something out. And that to me is then it creates this fear energy inside. It's like, oh God, what do I have to be aware of? What do I have to protect myself from? And so when you approached me with this idea of talking about shielding, I was like, oh, I don't like that term. And it's not like you use the wrong term. It's not, it's that that's such a a powerful energy there for me around that idea. And so I shared with you that I spent some time just meditating with it and just asking for some guidance and some insight around this concept. And it was so amazing to me because the first information that was coming in to me around this idea of shielding was that the way that I was thinking of it was all wrong. It's not about resisting something or blocking something or shutting something out. The concept, the idea of shielding and what that really is at its core is all about aligning our energy with our highest good. That's all it is. It's just aligning ourselves with our highest good. And you talk a lot about health, harmony, and happiness. It's aligning ourselves with our health, with our harmony, with our happiness. That's what shielding is. And so when we can kind of, bypass the word itself, which creates an image of having to block something out, then we can access what it truly is, which is just being in alignment with our highest good. And that when that information came through to me, I was like, oh, this is so much better. I'm totally on board. I'm ready to go. I get this.
I love that.
And it totally shifted the energy for me around the entire idea. And then I was suddenly seeing how this plays out in my own life. I don't have to be dreading a conversation with somebody. I don't have to be dreading with dealing with this or that situation. I don't have to set myself to go into a situation or a conversation feeling like it's going to go wrong, it's going to go bad. I have to, set myself up to not feel anything, because shielding doesn't want us to not feel anything. Shielding wants us to feel. It wants us to feel what's aligned for us, not what's not aligned for us.
Right.
So, that concept really helped me to shift kind of my own thinking around what shielding is and how we can do that and use it and achieve that. So, the next sort of like information or insight around that came through was this idea of proactivity versus reactivity. And when we are in a space of being aligned with our highest good, we're in a space of proactivity, because then we can access, our energy is expanded. It can access more possibilities, more options for how we can move through our day-to-day life and the world around us, feeling like we're centered in ourselves, feeling okay, feeling like we've got this, we can handle whatever comes up. And so, there's this reminder in this that it's important that we come from a space of being proactive and instead of being reactive, because again, that reactivity is all about being at the defense. It's like, resisting, holding back, pushing away. And so proactivity gives us more opportunity to create situations where the stuff we don't want to happen either doesn't happen or we're not as affected by when it does happen. So, and that was really key for me too, because I think especially, we've all kind of undergone stress this year in levels and layers that we never could have imagined. And so, you're looking, sometimes it feels like so much is happening and so much is coming at you all the time that you're just reacting to everything. And you're like, it's like when a ping pong ball is coming at you, or like 30 ping pong balls are coming at you and you're trying to bat them away. It's like handling things as they're thrown at you, as they show up in the world, as they hit the news headlines, and all of that. And so, this idea of proactivity helps us to stay in a space of like being able to sort of open the doors to how we can continue to move through our day, not feeling scared about what the other shoe that's going to drop, not feeling scared about what's going to, happen with the situation we've been worrying about or whatever. It just opens the door and gives us more expansion, more possibilities.
And again, it just keeps it positive.
Yes. And, positivity is such a hard thing sometimes too, because it's hard to kind of maintain an energy of positivity when we have, a pandemic going on, when we have unemployment going on, when we have, all this stuff going on. And so again, it's about coming into that space of alignment with your highest good. And that is always, a place that we can do more from, and we can, benefit in more healthy ways from. It's a way for us to go through healthfully rather than reactively. So, then, then this idea of, as I was sitting with this in meditation, I was really having this visual of a person, a woman who's standing in this space of alignment with her highest good. And it was such, there was a feeling with that. It wasn't just this visual, but it was a feeling around that felt so empowered. It felt so at peace. It felt so in control. And I'm not, going to say that we can control everything that's going to happen, but we can be in control of that energy and what we do with it and how we receive or give it. And so being in this space of alignment when, you're setting this up for yourself, and again, this is shielding. So when we are setting ourselves up to be in alignment with our highest good, it helps you to stand in your space and to stand in your spot in the world. You can look at that in quite like literal terms of like where I am standing right now. I'm standing my ground. And so as we're filling ourselves with this alignment with our highest good, we're standing in our ground, we're standing in our space, we're claiming and taking ownership of the spot that we are occupying right here, right now. And when we're doing that, when we are in, occupying this space and really claiming it, we're coming from a place of love because we're so aligned with who we are, what we're doing, what we're bringing, where we're taking it, how we're controlling our own, inner bubble, that we're coming from a place of love. We are connected with that place of love. And so, when we're talking about that proactivity, that reactivity, standing in this space of love, standing in this space of alignment with our highest self, then we're moving through all these, things that maybe we didn't want to have to move through. And we're better able to manage and handle the interaction of that energy. We'll call it like the new energy that's coming in, somebody else's thing or whatever. It's this new energy coming in. We can better manage and handle how we are interacting with that as it comes into our lives. So, you had, as we were kind of swapping back and forth some ideas before, this live stream, you had mentioned, how do we deal with some of that, and how do we shield when sometimes those forces are like outside of our control? We can't control the moon's pull on us. We can't control even our biological hormone activity. We can't necessarily control all of that. And right. So there was this insight that kind of came through that was around realizing and recognizing the difference between what other people are bringing in their energy and realizing what is there that may not, how is the best way to word this? So realizing that some things, whether they're those outside forces like the moon, or whether they're inside forces like hormones, that think in terms of, they're not things we need to think of in terms of shielding or protecting against, but rather they are part of our energy system. And so then, and I know you talk about this in your group, so then if they're part of our energy system, then how can we work with them instead of apart from them, or instead of against them? How can we then, bring that in so we don't have to see those forces as something we need to shield against or protect against, because they're part of our own energy system. We just need to claim them and then realize and recognize and discern and decide how we craft our actions, our beliefs, our thoughts that go with those energy forces that are part of our own natural system, instead of, bumping up against them and trying to resist from them.
Yeah.
So, and then as I kind of just sat with all of these thoughts, I was really like, okay, so what might that feel like? And maybe some of you who are in the audience who are listening, like, what would that feel like if you were, instead of kind of like trying to smack those ping pong balls, 300 times a day, smack them back because they're coming at you. Instead of reacting, how would it feel to, come through your day and holding yourself in this space of alignment with your highest good, in alignment with your health, in alignment with your harmony, in alignment with your happiness? What would that feel like? And I mean, I just loved to just sit in that space while I was meditating because it felt so good. It felt so much better.
Absolutely, it does. That's the plan.
Yes. So all of this is kind of, a concept, though. This is all very abstract. It's all conceptual. And it's like, yes, I hear that and I feel that when I can sit quietly in meditation, but like realistically, then, what does that look like? How do we actually apply that? And how can we actually do that in our day-to-day life? And so, I asked for more guidance on that. It was just like, okay, so like, what do I do with that? How do I do that? What's the guidance for how to move through in our very human existence with that? And so the first thing that came through was this reminder that we need to, remember that we have a choice in if we receive energy from other people or not, because we can choose that. And we need to remember that we have a choice in how we decide to receive it. So, for example, say that you have a friend who, calls you up and she's very upset. Maybe a family member is sick. Maybe the family member died. And that is instantly, for me anyway, it's instantly a place that when I, receive that type of communication, I just kind of instantly freeze up and like, what am I supposed to do right now? And it just kind of like, I just kind of freeze. And so, you can choose to receive it that way, where you're just like, it's like you put that shield, that like not super great shield up where you're blocking
the guard, the armored guard, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
And I like that you mentioned that before. I want to take a short detour with this because when I think about and when I've taught about the mind-body connection, I teach that what you take in and what you put up. So your mind and your body are one, right? So when you said shielding in terms of like a guard or putting your guard up, that's physically what your body will do too when you have that mentality. So when you can shift it and come to that space of allowing or being in alignment, it's so much different because your body will physically respond differently as well. So the same thing, like with what you're saying right now, is do you put your guard up or allow? Go ahead, finish on with your story.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm going with that, is that you can then you can choose how you're going to receive your friend's energy. Do you want to receive it in a way that you don't know what to say, you don't know what to do, and then you end up later feeling like, oh my God, I showed no compassion for her because I didn't know what to do. Or do you want to choose that you can then, sink into this expansive alignment with your highest good, which expands you open and allows you to take in your friend and really feel her, but not allow that to, change that space of love that you're sitting in, that space of alignment that you're sitting in. So then you can access, again, it's expansive. So you can access easier, like what your next response is going to be. What are the next words that come to you? What do you know your friend needs? And so you can just, as soon as you get off the phone, you can, make things happen and do that thing for that person. And so it really creates a more opportunistic way of handling in the way that you would want to have handled things. So choosing, how am I going to receive this information? How am I going to receive my friend's energy in this space that she's in right now? Because I can choose that, because I'm in alignment with my highest good. So first and foremost, just remembering that we have that choice and we can step back from it. We can open our door back up to alignment and choose if and how we are going to receive that. And then, secondly, there was a real reminder too, to make sure that when like, for example, if you find yourself in this situation and you haven't prepared for it, like you said earlier, that you just take a second to clear yourself first, because when you've already cleared your energy, you've maybe expressed some excess energy, or you've cleared somehow, then you're in a more able space to then set up that protection, set up that alignment. So do the clearing, and then you're ready to realign.
What does that look like, though? What does clearing look like for someone who doesn't know?
Yeah. Well, for me, I feel like clearing and shielding are like almost one and the same a lot of times, because when we clear, we're kind of already setting up a protection for us. So one of the things, I mean, there's so many ways you can do this, and I would guess a lot of people in your audience probably already have some ways that they clear. It could just be a simple way of just taking a few deep breaths and just pushing out that exhale. So because you're expressing, as you're pushing out an exhale, you're expressing excess energy. And even sighing, we'll recognize that we kind of naturally have these things, these like systems that are built into us to help us to kind of clear out. So like we might get off of a hard phone call and we're just like, like that's clearing, that's relieving some of that excess energy. But we can
also,
it's
the intuitive stuff that we already do sometimes.
Yeah. Yes, and we can sometimes also be more intentional about it, where we're really bringing in, a very intentional clearing. So it might be hopping in the shower or taking a bath. It could be, just drinking some water. It could be sitting down for a healthy meal. It could be breathing. It could be yoga. It could be meditation. It could be just visualization. You can just visualize that stuff is just rolling off you and draining down into the ground.
I like to just
dry brushing.
Clear.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So
it could be sitting in your car and saying release, release, release. Like I was saying, I do lots of times. Oh, someone put loud music. Also deep breaths and closing my eyes. Walking barefoot in the grass. I love that. Yes, those are great techniques.
Yes. Oh, that gave me goosebumps just thinking about the walking in the grass. Yes, that's all of those. So, so clear yourself first, and then you're in that more able, more centered place to be able to then set up your protection, your shielding, your alignment. And then the next thing that came through, and I'm going to circle back to the wording because I have a real thing about words. Anyway, so the next thing that came through was about creating a ritual for yourself around this idea of shielding, around this idea of calling in and bringing in that alignment for yourself. And so creating this ritual, and then the second part of that is to actually plug that ritual into your day. So circling back then to this idea of ritual, sometimes ritual is a little bit of a weird word for people. Sometimes it brings up things. And so a ritual, so I'm reading this, I'm going to take a little sidestep here. I'm reading this book right now. I just started it this week. And it's called, I actually have it sitting right here. It's called The Creative Habit, Learn It and Use It for Life by Twyla Tharp. And it's so cool. Well, anyway, this one section of it, she's talking about rituals and creating rituals for yourself. And I loved how she said it, because these are things like I do this for my own self, especially in my work when I'm getting ready for a client, when I'm getting ready to teach a class. I did it before I started here today. And so she talks about, how rituals basically are just, it's really about automatic but decisive patterns of behavior, which kind of set the stage for what you are about to do, or what you're about to encounter, or what you want to happen. And so, for example, when I am getting ready for a client call or a class, I have a set of automatic but intentional behaviors that I do. I set up all my materials that I'm going to need. I lay them out where I want them, where I'm going to need to access them. I get my incense set up and light it and start it smoking. I then grab my prayer beads and anything else that I might want to have with me at the moment. I sit down in my space. It's nice and cozy and padded all around me. I sit down and I just go quiet, and I spend time clearing my thoughts. I spend time calling in my spiritual guidance, my spiritual team. I put on some music. I have a favorite channel or station on Pandora that's Shaman's Dream, and that's my favorite. It helps me to kind of clear myself and get ready. So I put that on and get the music going, and I'm just in that space of quiet, calling in my guides, setting my intentions, asking for help, kind of picturing through what I want to have happen. So I want all my own thoughts and to-do list and everything stuck aside, held there for later. I want my channel clear and open. I want this to be a positive experience for myself, for my client. I want this to be fun. I want this to be helpful. I want there to be healing. So I go through all of these things. It's automatic for me at this point because I do it every time, but they're all very intentional actions that set me up to then be ready for that thing that is going to happen. And so when we're talking about shielding, then spending that time to, create a ritual around, our shielding then becomes a ritual for preparing us for what's going to happen. And whether that's a good thing, a fun thing, like my work is for me, or whether that's a hard thing, like some people's work is for them, my old work used to be for me, or whether that's a difficult conversation, or whether that's a college family get together for the holidays, or whatever that is, that you have that ritual where you are using that time to create your alignment. You're there creating the alignment for yourself. So what does that look like? What are some of those little rituals or those things that we can do to get us ready for whatever is going to happen, get us ready for that thing? So, again, there's so many possibilities, and probably everyone has like something, even if they've never really kind of verbalized it as such, that it's a ritual that they do. We probably all kind of have those things, like where maybe we talk ourselves through, what we want to say, so we don't forget that when we're in that, when we're in the spotlight. Maybe we pace the house. I don't know. We probably all
right. Drop them in the comment box, guys, if you're out there. What are some of the things that you guys do that are more ritualistic, or like Amber's saying, they're things you do every time you're preparing for something, that just kind of help you feel comforted, help you feel like you're prepared and ready to go, and you're going to receive whatever needs to be received, and you're going to give off your best and give the good energy that needs to inspire.
Right. And you may choose, especially as it goes with shielding or setting up our alignment with our highest good, as it goes with that, maybe that's something we choose to do at the beginning of the day before we get out of bed, or we do it as we're kind of going through our morning routine. It just becomes one thing in our morning routine where we're doing it or we're thinking about it while we're showering, or we're thinking about it while we're having our morning cup of coffee or tea. Maybe it's something that we do right before we have a meeting, or right before we're set to have an important phone call, or right before we know we're going to see that person that just, triggers us in some way. Maybe you choose to do this ritual during your transition time between work and home. And so you can flip, gears and be ready to enter your home in a loving, present way. Maybe it's, a ritual that you do, and it can just be so instantaneously that it's something you do the instant that, something with that new energy kind of appears. So maybe like that person is walking up to your office door, and you're like, oh, I got to get ready for this. Or maybe, whenever or maybe you're, oh my gosh, we might see this happen like when we're out driving and we encounter somebody, we're just driving along, and we encounter someone run the light, or, try and swerve into our lane or something like that. And so that instant when this new energy is approaching into our bubble and we have to, make sure we're like getting into that place, that space. So, you can do this ritual for yourself, and it's up to you to create it. I'll give you a few ideas, but, you can do that ritual for yourself at any point, at any point, any of those examples that I said, or whatever you see.
Do you think it's important to have you have the longer one, and I never thought of like doing as my yoga practice or my morning, the start of my morning, as a ritualistic preparation. But it is like using my yoga practice in that way. It is. That's what it's doing. That's my goal behind it. Yes. But I never thought of it as a way of setting up the alignment or shielding, rather, or using it as a technique for that. Right. But so do you think you have to have in your back pocket then like a instantaneous something that you can do, and then one that, like, oh, I've got the time, so I'm going to just dig in. I know this is what's going to really make me feel my absolute best. But these are some of the quick things that, okay, when I know I'm now, encountering someone I didn't think that their energy was going to be like that. And it is.
Yeah. So that's where this proactivity versus reactivity comes into play. And when we are, setting ourselves up with that alignment with our highest good, then that's, the point when we're kind of creating for ourselves that space. And so we can access it quicker when we're in that, fleeting moment or that sudden thing that happens. And so it can just be as quick and simple as just the thought that takes us to our ritual, but we don't actually have to act it all out. So for example, like if I'm going to do a client call, like I explained, I do all those steps to kind of lead up to that and get myself ready. But say, for example, I have a good friend who messages me and she's like, Amber, I need you to look into something for me, spiritually speaking. I need help. This thing is coming up right now. And I'm just like, instantly, I'm like, oh, this is really urgent. And I don't have, the 20 or 30 minutes beforehand to set myself up to be able to do this. And so it's as simple as, because I've set all that up for myself and used it time and time and time again, it's as simple as just the thought of that ritual that then brings me through the ritual just instantaneously. And so it can be something simple like that. You could also use a touchstone for whatever reason this is coming up.
It's because I've got my crystals right here in my hands.
I knew it was coming from somewhere. I was like, I don't know what
I'm just like, just holding them.
That's exactly where it's coming from. Then it's like, so you can use this always happens for me, and I'm like, yep, I knew it was coming from somewhere. And so you could use your touchstone that you've already, it's your thing, it's your buddy that you use to get through, whatever. And so just touching it or holding it allows you to access that energetic space where you want to be, or to pull you into being able to access your alignment again. So that's so funny, Kathy.
That is divine.
So what are some other things we can do then? And actually, it was funny that you said that you hadn't thought of the, yoga being a ritual for you in preparing for your day. And that's exactly what it is. And also, in the book that I mentioned, she gives off all these beautiful examples. And she actually talks about a man who uses yoga as his ritual to begin his day. She talks about somebody had commented about the loud music. In her book, she actually shares that she knows of a painter who, before she can even lay brush to the canvas, she has to have loud music on to get her ready for that energetically. So loud music is totally it's a thing that other people do too. And she talks about several other, like a chef who before he goes into his kitchen, he goes out to his garden and he inspects all of the vegetables and the fruits and everything, and that he's going to be using, and he picks things or he weeds and that's his ritual for preparing his energetic space to be ready to go in the kitchen and kick ass with that, or whatever profession, whatever role, even as a parent or as a partner or as a sister or any of that, at any of the roles that we play, we can have these rituals that bring us into that space, that prepare us to be in the space where we can go and then do it. We can go and then serve or do or be. So you can create a ritual around this shielding practice, around this alignment to your highest good. So maybe you want to light a candle. Some people are really connect with the idea of lighting a candle. So you could light a candle, say a prayer, set your intentions. You could do that while you're calling in your spiritual guidance, your spiritual support. So that could be your ritual for shielding for the day. You could just take deep breaths, just do a little bit of breathing, deep breathing, and seeing that new energy that I mentioned, seeing that new energy staying kind of outside of your bubble, so that when it shows up, you can examine it from a distance, from a neutral perspective, or from an outside perspective, rather than handling it from a perspective of when it's already latched onto you, or like brought you into it. So taking deep breaths and seeing that new energy staying outside of your bubble, so that you can really examine it from outside. You can do a visualization. I do this a lot. So you can envision that, there's all kinds of things you can envision. So a lot of people will do, like, they're picturing themselves inside a bubble of white light or purple light or whatever color. You can visualize seeing yourself going through your day just completely empowered. Every step that you're taking is empowered with light. It's empowered with love. It's empowered with health, happiness, harmony. So you can see yourself walking through your day and get specific with that. See yourself driving to work. See yourself going into your office. See yourself interacting with your clients. See yourself interacting with your colleagues. See yourself with your coming home in the evening. And interacting with your family. For me, like, I work from home and my son is here doing virtual school this year. And so we're together all day. And so my day is very back and forth. And so I would be visualizing myself starting the day, with love between us, with health, making sure there's a good meal on the table that he has time to eat before he has to go on his first meeting, that I would see as he goes through his day and needs help or support with something, that I'm able to access my calm, patient mother self and not, get flustered because I'm working on something else. And so visualizing myself going through my day and the little things that will come up, and seeing myself handling that from a space of love, of alignment with my highest good, with my son's highest good. You could also do this in a very physical way. So your ritual might be where you are very physically opening your heart center, opening your throat center, and aligning your spinal column, your support column. So you're doing this very physically, dropping your shoulders back and down. You are aligning your spine and your neck, so your head is upright, your neck is upright and not, bending down. You're feeling your stance. As you're standing, you're feeling your stance is solid and firm. You are claiming the spot that you were occupying, and that can. It opens up the chest. It opens up our heart center. It opens up our communication center. It aligns our sturdiness, our stability, our, all of that. So that's something you can do. And there's actually studies that show that when we do this, that when we align our neck and spine, and we bring our shoulders back, and we bring our chin up like this, like where it's parallel to the ground, we actually shift biologically our bodies, and that can shift our, chemicals in our body.
Like, you can take this power stance. What is it called? Like, there's an actual name.
Yeah.
And you can just take and stand.
Yes.
And it will physically change you. Like, it will, not physically, like you said, biologically, it will change you. And it will, even if you're doing it for 5 minutes a day, 3 minutes a day, it changes that perspective. So power that with visualizations, and that's a great team, a great pair.
Can you imagine, like, some of those things that, like, those people in the world that you just don't like to deal with? Can you imagine yourself standing in front of them in that stance where you are claiming in every cell of your body your power and your alignment, your highest good? Like, how much difference that would make in even their energy, as it's mixing with you, in their energy and their receptive state of you. And that could totally shift, that could neutralize any, weird feelings between you. It could totally transmute them all together. So like, try it out. Like, that's
absolutely. It's such an easy thing to do. Like, why wouldn't you just try it? Remember, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm just going to see if it makes any difference.
Yeah. And that's a shielding technique. I mean, when we're shielding, we're aligning ourselves with our highest good. When we're standing in that stance, we're aligning ourselves with our highest good. We're physically and literally,
Yeah.
and figuratively, in every way, we're aligning ourselves with our highest good. So, you might also think about cutting back stimuli. This is one that's really important for me personally. I get very overstimulated very easily, because I have a high mental activity rate. And so my thoughts are always like all, everywhere. And so, sometimes when I'm in a place that's, there's a lot of visual stimulation, visible stimuli, when there's noise, when there's someone talking, things like that, that I just feel like I have to restrict, like I have to pull myself in because I'm trying to block all this out. And so if you are in a state where you you feel that you need some shielding, then try cutting down some of that stimuli. So close out of the extra browsers. It helps my computer. It can help you too.
For sure. For sure. That's a great analogy.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, totally.
So,
totally.
And shutting off the TV and telling your family, I need 5 minutes of quiet time, or going into a room that doesn't have as much going on, that has deeper colors or has fewer items in it, or whatever that is. Or going somewhere where things are a little bit more like blended, visually. So maybe that means going out on a walk in the park where visually things are very blended, the trees, the grass, it's all very blended. So that can be really helpful too. So cut back on some of that stimuli. There's a technique you can use too, and you can develop this for yourself, to practice with it, and it will develop more for you. But it's the heavy light technique, and probably a lot of people know about this, but heavy light is just tuning into the energy of something and noticing if it feels light to you or if it feels heavy to you. And so you can use this process. So it will help you to discern, okay, what is my energy? What are my thoughts? What are my beliefs? And what is somebody else's energy? What is somebody else's thoughts? What is somebody else's beliefs? Some of that can help protect us. So when we are, feeling like, a lot of times family stuff comes into play here, like the things we were taught by our parents about how we should act, how we should behave, who we should be, who we are, all those things. And so sometimes we can actually get ourselves caught up in a place of like stress because something isn't aligning right for us. And so if we take it to light heavy and see, like, is this belief or is this rule that I feel like I have to follow, or is this situation like mine, or is it my family members or somebody else's, then that can help us to release what's not ours. So we're back in alignment with our highest good again, not somebody else's. So, and to do that, and there's so many ways you can use this light heavy thing, but you just give yourself a minute, close your eyes, clear out your thoughts, and just, you can either put things in front of you in your field of vision behind your eyelids. So like in your mind space, you can put like, the two possibilities, two options or whatever, which one feels light, which one feels heavy. Or if you're sitting with this particular situation, does this feel heavy to you? If so, it's probably not yours, or it's not in alignment for you. If it feels light, then it's probably yours and it's probably in alignment for you. So you can test that out on everything. And you can also do it in a way where maybe it's not heavy or light, but maybe it's like dark or light. And so one is more bright, one is dimmer. You can do it with like how your body, like some people do like use their bodies as like a pendulum. And so which way does your body kind of pull you?
I do the forward back thing.
Yes, exactly. And so I do a similar thing where behind, like I just go quiet and I notice, like I put the two options or, whatever it is kind of on sides in my focal like focal points.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there's one here, and I'll just say which one or, whatever. And I will let my eyes or my body direct me over to this one or over to that one, whichever one. And I just go with it. It's like, okay, thanks. Like that was super quick. And so you can use that concept in shielding and deciding what is my energy, what is my belief, what is my thought, or is this somebody else's? Whose is this? And then you can also use that light, heavy, or, whichever variety of that you prefer for making.
I use the light, heavy a lot. I ask clients that a lot because it's helpful.
Right. It helps you make aligned decisions, aligned choices. It helps you stay in alignment with your highest good. So, let's see. You can also, another thing to do here would be to clarify your boundaries. And so clarifying boundaries is a super good shielding device. Creating boundaries is
but it's like so hard for people, Amber.
Yes, well, all of this is hard for people. maybe it's not as hard as we think it is, or we want it to be.
I know.
Maybe what's harder is just standing in our truth and standing in our reality. So clarifying boundaries and choosing how to handle those situations from that place of alignment, from that place of alignment with our highest good, from that place of proactivity, from that place of love. So maybe our boundaries are telling us that maybe our boundaries aren't even about other people. I know a lot of times we think of it in those terms, but maybe they're with ourselves. Like your husband who let himself stay up too late, like that maybe was a boundary crossing for him, for his own self. Like I crossed over a boundary there. And so then when we can clarify that and say, I did that, I crossed my own boundary and it didn't go well for me, then we can bring ourselves back into alignment with that and we're shielded automatically. Poof, it's there. So let's come back around to what you were talking about, what you shared in the very beginning about this real life example. And I'll just invite you to kind of go through this with me, where we can look at it and kind of examine it from this place of alignment with our highest good, proactivity, and love, and kind of look at that and see, next time this shows up, like how might we handle this? And again, you can choose. So if you don't want to choose this way next time and you want to choose to get upset, that's okay. That's fine. That's a choice and it's okay.
Right.
We'll get through it, So there's no wrong here. There's no right. There's just, whatever you choose. So, looking at your husband who we, talked about, he broke a boundary for himself by staying up too late. And then he was super tired and taking it out on other people. He was his grouchy Oscar the Grouch self at that moment.
Right.
And so when he comes in, you weren't expecting that. And so, maybe this is a good reminder for all of us who have partners that we live with or other people that we live with, that when they are set due to come home, maybe we take ourselves through that ritual. And then we can receive them in the most delightful way we possibly can, even if they, regardless of what their energy is, we can choose, what is aligned for us. So we know they're going to come home at 6. My husband comes home at 6 o'clock, 6:30. So maybe 5:45, I can sit down and just, or as I'm standing there cooking, I can be taking myself into this place of harmony and health and all of that. With your husband, we can't, go ahead.
It's just so and I didn't, it was like I was just taking on his, and it was making me sad and I feel really bad because I wasn't getting that connection with him, the positive connection or the connection that I would rather have before he leaves for an evening of work. And then it made me be kind of grouchy with my kids. Yeah. And I let that, and I tried not to, but It was really
Yes. And it's hard. Let's be realistic. We are humans and we live this human life and we have things that we have to take care of. And I mean, I know we've talked, on a personal level that both of us have busy lives. We are running businesses, we have children, we have a spouse, we're managing most of the household stuff. And that's a lot. It's a lot. And quite frankly, sometimes there just isn't the mind space to like align myself. Hey, Amber, you need to align yourself right now. Yeah,
Exactly.
no, I've got a dinner to cook and I've got,
So what do you
homework to
do?
check.
Yeah. So what do you do?
Well, then that's where it comes in to be a practice where you have
It just
to,
has to be awareness.
yeah, it has to be a practice. It's just like yoga, Kathy, where like, the first day when you attend a yoga class, you're not going to be doing a headstand, you're not going to be doing like your leg isn't going to be over here. And, like you're not going to be able to do that. That's a practice that gets developed and honed and worked through. And you can, and so it just has to be a part of the ritual. It just has to be part of the ritual.
And Scout, my 4-year-old, said to me the other day, we were coloring or doing something, and I don't know, she was singing a song about something. There was no need to like, nobody was upset about anything. And she says, "Oh, count down to calm." And I was like, that's a really good saying. I said, "Did you make that up? Or I heard it on TV or something." Count down to calm. Good reminder. 10, 9, just count down.
Yes,
From 10
I love that.
to calm. And I'm like, thanks, Scout. That's a bonus. I think we all just need to remember to count down to calm sometimes. And while you're doing that, you're shielding or you're protecting, and you're just creating your space of alignment, I guess.
Yes, and you are making it so you are not taking on all that heaviness from others, but then you're also not spreading yours out to others. And I think that's equally important. When we take that personal responsibility for ourselves, we take that personal responsibility for what we're putting out and what anyone else is bringing in. When I was learning Reiki, my Reiki master teacher, this just kind of popped in my head. She had a little sign, like a little decorative sign that hung on her wall right by the healing room. And it said, "You are responsible for the energy you bring into this room." And that sometimes I would like stop right there and just take a deep breath and exhale and let some of that, do some of that clearing before I even entered the room, because it was a good reminder that, I need to now set my energy, because the energy I bring in, not only can it affect others if they haven't shielded, if they haven't set that up for themselves, but it also decides for me how I'm going to experience something. So if I decide not to clear myself and to go in with all the stuff that had happened that day or that week or whatever, then I'm taking away so much possibility for my healing, for my receptivity to the healing energy, to my learning and my growth. And so, yeah, it was a really nice little reminder. And it kind of coincides with Scout's wisdom there of that countdown to calm, is like taking that moment to choose something so that you can step into the next thing. That's Scout's ritual. She created a ritual there. That's the deliberate steps, but they're automatic steps to being prepared for what you're moving into.
Yeah.
So it was awesome.
Yeah. She's a little intuitive bug. She is just, and she's a girl. She's emotional. Like she's very in tune with her emotions and everything. So it's lovely that she can start to use some of those things right now and take advantage of them. I think the other thing that I use a lot is to, from a Christian standpoint, I ask the Holy Spirit to just protect me, or to be with me, or to be so close to me that I definitely feel that presence, and I can feel the presence of the love and whatever it is that I need in that moment. And that just helps bring that peace and brings that calm, and allows me to send that out to others too.
Yes. And that's part of that ritual, that you can choose to include that part of it, whatever your vocabulary is, whatever your, beliefs are, or whomever it is in your spiritual system that would serve that role. And so for me, so for you, it's Holy Spirit. And for me, it's my guides, my angels, my loved ones on the other side, and my highest self. That's who I call on. And so, yeah, create that as part of your ritual, that you're calling in for that support, for that guidance, that insight, that wisdom, and just to be alongside you as you go through something, whether that's a fun thing or whether that's a challenging thing.
I love it. Yes. And I love, I have that belief too, that I'm going to call on my ancestors. I'm going to call on those guides, those angels that I need to, because they're all players in allowing us to experience this life as we were intended to, and to really fully embody who our true selves are, and use that inner wisdom and inner guidance and connection to all things.
Yes.
It's so powerful. So powerful.
Right. And to help us be able to shield and go through in alignment with our highest good.
Exactly. Do you have anything else that you want to share with us today and share with listeners today?
If nothing else, if you don't remember a specific technique, or you can't think of it at that moment when something is there, just think the phrase highest good. Just think highest good, and let that be the only thing that you have to remember or you have to think at those moments. Because when you can just access that little phrase, those two little words, they're not just little words, they're everything. So
that's super powerful. Super powerful. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Phew. That was a lot of information. I'd forgotten about that interview, and listening to it again really brought back a lot of things for me to remember to do, and just some really good reminders. And, one of the biggest things to remember is that it is all an experiment. All of what you're doing and trying out on yourself is an experiment. And when you look at it like that, and when you can approach it with curiosity, it becomes lighter. Just like we were talking about the heavy and the light. This is not intended to be something that you have to do or check off your list. It's intended to be something to help you align with your highest good. And there are so many different techniques and so many different things that you can do. I know that Amber and I talked a lot about yoga, and that being one for myself. And I know that is. And since this podcast was recorded, because it was recorded over 2 years ago, I've added a lot of things. I've changed a lot of things. I've adapted a lot of things. So I do things differently in my own life, and you have full permission to do things differently in your own life as well, and to try new things and to experiment. When you practice with whatever technique or whatever ritual you decide or you want to set up for yourself, when you practice it, it becomes more habitual, and it becomes easier to align with your highest good. It becomes easier to protect yourself and set those boundaries so that you are living in your highest alignment. And not protect yourself, like Amber said, from a space of fearfulness, but from a space of really being your best self, living in your own power, and feeling in alignment with the true light within you. If you hung out with us this long, thanks so much. You might have had to break this episode up into 2 listening sessions or more. It was a little bit longer one, but definitely a fun one to listen to and a fun one to revisit as well. Until next week, you've been listening to the Health, Harmony, and Happiness with Kathy podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Stricker. Cheers to cultivating your own version of health, harmony, and happiness in your life.